Hello and good evening. My name is Matt Kastner. I'm the president-elect for the National Speakers Association here in Kansas City, and we're so pleased to bring to you tonight this showcase premiere. We've been working hard over the last year to cultivate for you the very best in professional speaker talent in the Kansas City area. Now, it's taken us a little bit longer than normal because, well, pandemic has changed things. It's changed our personal lives. It's changed the way we do business. And for better or for worse, it's changing our future. So if you are a leader of people in your business or organization, you're in luck, because the National Speaker Association has cultivated talent to help inspire your people and to help you lead them into the future. So I want you to enjoy, sit back, and reimagine.
I have been married for 36 years.
Wow.
To 4 different women.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm kidding. It's the same woman. But we're in different phases of our life. We're in the candor phase of our life right now. Okay, that's very important to understand. The other day I told her, I said, hey, Becky, I checked and I've written 200 jokes. She said, yeah, and I'm tired of every one of them. But that candor goes both ways. We went to visit my daughter in New York one time, and my daughter Taylor said, Dad, could you and Mom have ever run a business together? I said, not likely. I said, quite frankly, I don't know who would kill who. My wife said, whom? I said, what? She said, the correct grammar is I don't know who would kill whom. I said, okay, now I know. My name is Terry Phillips, and I want to tell you a little bit about speaking. At the highest level at the binary level of speaking, there are content speakers and there are entertainment speakers. Now the concern is that the content speakers won't be entertaining, and the entertaining speakers won't really have any content. So I was looking at my bio. I mean, I've spoken quite a bit. I've got some letters after my name on the business side. But there was nothing to indicate that I might possibly be entertaining. So what I decided to do was I decided to start doing stand-up comedy. Woo! I told my wife, I said, Becky, I'm going to start doing stand-up comedy. She said, I thought that was only done by people that were funny. Okay, everybody thinks they're a comedian, all right? So seriously, I did this at the age of 65 a couple of years ago. Now, I am a perpetual student, and I do believe, there's 2 questions a human brain should be asking over and over again. That is, what does this mean? How can I use it? So in addition to learning how to kind of do this, I wanted to see what other practical value it could be for me. And I got to tell you, I'm still learning, but I learned a lot. And I still remember one time I saw they're all younger than me, a younger comedian, but he's an experienced comedian talking to a very new comedian and running a joke by him. And the new comedian's running a joke by him. The comedian says, tell me what it is. And the guy says, well, I'm an Uber driver, and last Friday about 10:30 at night, I was out by the Kansas Speedway. I picked up these 3 young women. I took them down to the Power and Light District, and something funny happened.
Might be better if I did it.
And I won't tell you the joke because it's not mine, but it was funny. And after it was over, the comedian, experienced comedian said, okay, that was good. A couple of things. Nobody cares what day it was. Nobody cares what time it was. Nobody cares where you picked them up. Nobody cares where you took them. You picked up 3 people and something funny happened. And when I heard that, what does this mean came into my head. What I heard was, get to it. Get to it. And the title of my very brief presentation here is Get to It. Lessons that I learned from doing some stand-up comedy. Now what I'm going to do in the very brief time I do is I'm going to tell you about 3 things. Just simply 3 things about any interaction that you do with people that I learned from doing stand-up comedy. But what is the first thing you have to do to incorporate a new idea, a new concept, or a new behavior into your life? Anybody, what's the very first thing you have to do?
Repetition.
Repetition, you have to remember it. That will help you. Okay, you have to remember it. Sometimes people say, well, of course. Oh, no. People go to workshops, they hear presentations, they take notes, and then they put those on their shelf somewhere and they never look at them again. So in addition, to giving information, you got to do something to possibly to help them remember it. And that's what I want to do is, there's an associative component to memory retention. People remember things by associating it with something that they already know. Now, what I decided to do is basically a lot of times use humor or stories or humorous stories. Okay, so I'm going to teach you three things. I'm going to teach you perimeter review. I'm going to teach you the idea that when you're having these conversations, I'm going to teach you the 4 W's, which is very, very important, and I'm going to teach you the concept of NFL. All right? Keep it very simple because I want you to be able to use it immediately. Perimeter review. This is a true story. I'm not making this up. I made a movie with Matt Damon. I did. The last Jason Bourne movie shot in 2017 when it was shot out in Las Vegas, I filmed that with Matt Damon. I had a scene with Matt Damon. Anybody impressed yet? Okay, well, don't get too excited because my scene was cut. Okay, it was not in the movie. I don't know, I guess Matt messed up. I'm not exactly sure what happened, okay, but it wasn't in there. But I will tell you, as a result of shooting that movie with Matt Damon, today I consider him a dear, dear friend of mine. I don't think he considers me a dear, dear friend of his because we never actually met, we never actually talked, we never had any interaction. But I do believe on kind of a spiritual level, Matt Damon and I connected, and I've never forgotten that, okay? Now, with regard to, if you think about interactions with people, one of the first things that I encourage people to do is a perimeter review, just like Jason Bourne does. And that is when you're interacting with somebody, a group, who are these people from the looks on their face? Exactly, are they into this? Or do they want to be here? Etc. It's very, very important. And also, is there anybody in the room that buys the balloons? That's what we call it. The idea that somebody that can make a decision in this room. Very, very important. And so the idea that always do a perimeter review. It's not hard. You can do it very, very quickly. And I've given you a little tip on how you might remember that. And that is perimeter review. How to remember that? Carrie Phillips' friend, Matt Damon, who doesn't actually know me. Okay, but you get the idea. The whole idea is it gives you a prompt with regard to that. Everybody with me so far on that?
Yeah.
All right. Perimeter review. What are you going to think of? Matt Damon? That's right. Carrie Phillips, thank you. Or me. The other thing that we're going to talk about with regard to this is after you've made the perimeter review, you want to talk to the people at the right level, and that's the concept of NFL. I have a law school buddy of mine. I used to go to law school, and his name was JJ. And JJ was, he left after law school, he joined the FBI. And he was gone from Kansas City for 23 years, and JJ came back to Kansas City. We were catching up. We were at a coffee shop. JJ is eating a muffin. I mentioned the muffin, pun intended, because that adds flavor to the story. And I'm talking to JJ. And I said, so what'd you do for the FBI? He says, well, I did a lot of things. I did this, I did that. He says, and for the last 5 years, I was a hostage negotiator. You got anybody you went to high school or college with and you lose track of them, and then some years go by, you run into somebody from those days, and you say, what's Mary doing? And they said, oh, she's a medical doctor. And you think, yeah, I can see that. And then you've got other people that you went to school with, and you find out what they've been doing, and you go, huh. Okay? So, back to JJ eating the muffin. I said, so you were a hostage negotiator? He said, yeah. I said, bank robbery gone bad, police are called, SWAT surrounds the entire building, and the last thing they would do before they decided whether or not to go in is they called you? And he goes, yeah, can you believe it? And I said, I'm processing it. I got to tell you, I am processing it. So, being the perpetual student that I am, I said, tell me something about that would be of value to me. He said, sure, NFL. I said, what? He said, NFL. I said, I'm assuming you don't mean National Football League. What does that mean? He said, NFL, normal functioning level. He said, this individual that's robbed this bank or something like that, they've never been in this situation before, okay? It's potentially a dangerous situation. You've got to talk that person down, okay? Do not join them. Do not join them, okay? Because they're very, very excited. And that is, I'm going to do this. Oh, no. You don't say, yeah, we'll run in. No. You've got to talk them down normal functioning level. And I said, okay, anything else? He said, listen. I said, oh, sure, you got to listen. He goes, no, I mean listen. I said, absolutely, I'm with you. He goes, no, I mean listen. Truly listen. Listen as if somebody's life might depend on it, which I found was a whole lot of pressure. But think in terms of business, or if you're dealing with difficult people or situations. First, if you're going into a meeting or somebody comes into your room, first thing we're doing is a perimeter review. We're checking them out. We're seeing what their mood is, etc. The other thing is, sometimes you can tell the person is angry. You can tell the person is upset about something. What I say to myself is, NFL, normal functioning level, normal functioning level. And then the third one is simply to listen. Okay, simply listen to what is being said. All right? You got the three things? Perimeter. NFL, listen. Those are the three things. I do a presentation which I enjoy. This is a little bit from that, and that is that nobody has to be a failure. You can always serve as a bad example. Okay? The idea that the do's and don'ts. Because almost anything, there is an opportunity to inject some type of humor, if you will. And so I think it's very important because a lot of times in between the speakers today, I will come out and try to tell a joke or two, just in order to give everybody a little break while they mic up the other people. So, in the brief time that I have, I want to tell you one other thing about what's going on tonight. About 25 years ago, I took part in a focus group on the cell telephone, okay? The telephone. And that is, 25 years ago, what could the telephone be used for? And I was with a group. There were other people in other states doing this. But we started talking about, well, what if your telephone could keep track of where you are? Okay? This is 25 years ago. And we talked about that. And then somebody else said, well, what if your telephone could lower your temperature or raise your temperature at your house so it read it when you came in? And again, that was exciting. And then somebody said, what if your telephone could take a picture? And I said, what? And they said, yeah, you would take a picture. I said, well, why would you want your phone to take a picture? I mean, you've got a camera. They said, well, I don't know, it'd be kind of fun. And I'm thinking about it, I'm talking to them and says, take a picture? I said, well, where would it come out? I couldn't figure out where it would come out. The problem that I had there, there was interference. What I knew was interfering with what I was trying to do. Henry Ford once said, if I had asked my clients what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. Okay? They would have said a faster horse. So at that time, with regard to the phone, and look at where we are 25 years later, at that time, the phone and the camera, all that, I couldn't imagine it. Steve Hughes is an award-winning speaker who helps people look and sound smart when they talk. He is the proud creator of International Face Your Fears Day, and he's been featured in NPR, BBC Radio, and in the Wall Street Journal. Here to show us how to bounce back and thrive in any situation, please join me in welcoming CSP Steve Hughes.
Woo! Before I launch into my thunderous, mind-blowing awesomeness of the program, can I get your opinion on something? You see, normally I run all my outfits past my wife, and she wasn't able to join me on this trip, and so that's where you come in. I'd like your opinion. So, and just please shoot straight, really. Do these pants make me look bald? Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. And by the way, I appreciate your honesty. I mean, we're building some real trust here. In fact, we can kind of work with this. We can launch. So the other question I want to ask you is this. Think about yourself a day at work. You arrive at work, whether you're working remotely or you're working at the office like we used to do that one time. And what are some of those things that come completely out of left field, completely just threw you for a curve? Now, before you answer, I want to also invite the folks who are joining us remotely to text me your answers. In fact, in the chat, we just put a phone number for you to text your answers. So I want to hear your input as well as the folks here. And so also throughout the program, if you have a question, comment, feedback, vicious personal attack, whatever you want, that's fine. I would love to hear from you. So here's the question. What are some of those things that just come out of left field that suddenly are throw you off your game? It's almost like a 2x4 is thrown at your to-do list. Just shout them out there. What are some things that come up?
Stupid people.
Stupid people. That's a tough one. Very nice. How about somebody else?
Somebody quits.
Somebody quits. Isn't that great? Or I heard someone say a client leaves. That's tough. Let me check the board here if you don't mind. A pandemic is a tough one. Yeah, that ruins, you go to work and then a pandemic hits. Someone here said when your boss asks for a report 2 days early. Not cool. Or another person said sick child. Doesn't it seem like kids always get sick at the wrong time? Or I don't know if there's a good time to get sick. But here's the thing. Wouldn't it be great if you could say, oh my gosh, boss or person or stupid person, whoever it is, I'm kind of freaking out right now. This is not what I expected. Can you give me 3 minutes? I'm going to head back to my desk. I'm going to do a mindfulness exercise, kind of get centered, and then collect my thoughts, and I'll come back here, and then we'll kind of pick up where we left off. We cool with that? Can't do that. What we can do, though, is we can actually increase your real-time resilience through a surprising lens. And there's a way actually to become better at finding your footing, at riding the ship, at like kind of collecting yourself and becoming that awesome person, even when things come at you didn't expect. I'm going to do that by looking at the world of improv. Improvisation. Now, whether you've seen it on TV or you've been to a live improv show, it looks like just a bunch of people getting together and being funny and creating scenes and doing all that kind of great stuff. And it almost seems like it's this wizardry, this magic. Like, how do they do that? How do they come up with it? Well, they actually do all that by following a beautifully crafted, tight set of rules and principles that actually through those rules and principles allows them an explosion of creativity and for cool things to happen. Now, the basic essence of improv, and some of you may have heard of this, it's the idea of yes and. Yes and. Or I like to put it this way, it's the idea of accept and build. You accept and build. So if you're up there, if two improvisers are up there on stage, whatever one person does to the other, when they do have some kind of attitude, an accent, they have an emotion, they call you a name or whatever it is, that's considered an offer. And it's the job of the improvising partner to accept the offer and do something with it. So yes to the offer, and I'm going to build on top of it. So quick example might be something like two improvisers on stage, and say the suggestion is money. And so one improviser says, hey, looks like it's time, let's go rob the bank. And the other improviser says, cool, sounds great. Here's your mask, and here's a sack with a giant $sign on it. Let's go. Now we have a scene. The offer was, we're now bank robbers. We're going to go do something cool, and here's some tools we need. Let's go make it happen. Now, what we don't want to do in improv and in life is we don't want to have a denial. A denial is essentially you shut down the scene. You say no. You block whatever they say. So that same scene that just got started beautifully with a denial looks like this. Take two. Hey, we're going to go rob a bank. Let's get to it. Rob a bank? Why, I'm the fat cat president of this here bank, and we ain't robbing nothing. Okay, that's a block. That's a denial. And by the way, I'm not sure if you're allowed to still say the word fat cat. Is that offensive to cats, maybe? I don't know. So the thought is, the scene gets shut down. The offer was we're bank robbers. The other person said, I don't want to be a bank robber. I want to be bank president. Not cool. The scene goes nowhere. But we can easily fall into that trap because of that offer we didn't want. the sick kid, the report due early, the person quits, and what do? But you still got to move forward. So the idea is when you accept the offer, you're doing what our good friend Marty Seligman said. Now, if you know Martin Seligman, he'd be basically on the Mount Rushmore of resilience. He is, in terms of research, he's from University of Pennsylvania. And he basically said this: the most resilient people in the world are those folks who accept reality for what it is, and they recognize their agency to do something about it. Right? So when we spend a lot of time denying the reality, pretending the person still works there, or pretending the report's not due, that's when we run into trouble. In fact, my favorite example, I think, maybe of all time, of where improv can help someone create something amazing out of a difficult situation, actually took place in 1943. So if you might want to go back in time, so in 43, we were right in the middle of World War II. It was very common for the men and women stationed at Fort Allen, Texas, right there on the border, for them to kind of head over into Mexico, this sweet little town called Piedras Negras, Mexico. And they'd go out for, say, a night on the town. They'd shop. They'd, maybe go out to dinner, what have you. And so one evening, a group of 10 Army personnel head over to their favorite restaurant in this sweet little town, and it's called the Victory Club. So you show up a bit on the early side, and they're greeted by the maitre d', the manager, and his name is Ignacio. And by the way, remember that. In fact, we should do, somehow have a little mental hook to remember Ignacio, because that's going to come in handy later. So Ignacio brings them in, seats them, hands them menus, and then he heads back to the kitchen to find a waiter or waitress, because he had been at the front of the house for, hour and a half, and he thought surely someone's back there to come on out and they'll help. He goes into the kitchen, and suddenly he finds, much to his shock and horror, he is completely by himself. There's nobody there. There's no waiter, no waitress, no chef, sous chef, food prep, dishwasher, doesn't matter, busboy, nobody. And suddenly he's like, I've got some hungry people out there, and I got to do something. So he looks around, and he's like, this will be nice. But he says, okay, what can I do with what I have? And there's not much there. He finds some freshly made tostadas from the early morning crew who had already left. He puts them on a tray. He grabs some cheese. He grates it up on top. He then runs it through the salamander, which is kind of this top-down broiler. It comes out. He spices it up with a couple of jalapenos, and then he brings it out to the people, and they go bonkers. They had never had such an amazing appetizer. In fact, they loved it so much, they ordered another round. So he runs back, makes the whole thing again, brings it out to them, and by that time, finally, a waiter showed up as well as the head chef. And so Ignacio's done, like, phew, I made it. He's about to head back to the host stand and start to greet other people as they come in, when they say, hey, good sir, what do you call this thing? And this amazing concoction, what's the name of it? It doesn't look like it's on your menu. And all I could think of was his nickname, which was Nacho. Ignacio Nacho. So I call him Nachos Especiale. I don't know. And they say, great, fantastic. And thus was born one of the greatest appetizers of all time. In fact, there's a ton of everyday foods that were invented in similar fashion. Things like Toll House cookies, ice cream cones, Worcestershire sauce. I must be honest, isn't the world a better place with Worcestershire sauce? I mean, I probably put that in my gratitude journal like once a week. Just like, how can you not enjoy it enough? But here's the thing with Ignacio and with us, when we get those unexpected offers, those things we don't really want to have happen, but they're here and we got to do something. Because here's Ignacio. He didn't have at that moment, he didn't have the training, the talent, the time, the team. He didn't have any of those things to help him take care of these hungry patrons. In fact, I'd argue, by the way, if we were to go back in time, we could send Ignacio to the greatest culinary school on the planet. And we gave him 10 years of training and experience. We gave him a fully stocked kitchen, a staff of 10, and unlimited time. I can guarantee you, I can't guarantee, but come pretty close. I bet you he would not come up with nachos. Because here's the thing. When that unexpected offer comes to you, when that bad news is given, you don't have to relish it and go, yay, that's fun. But what you need to say, okay, all right, from this constraint, and recognize from this constraint, it becomes the catalyst for creativity. That's when really cool stuff happens. You're saying, okay, Steve, this is all lovely, yeah, fun food story, whatever. But how would this work if, say, you get an offer and you really aren't or able to say yes to it? In fact, you should say no. What do you do then? Well, first of all, I love that question, but can we watch the attitude? Can we just kind of take that down a notch? Thank you. So actually, you know what I'm going to do, if you don't mind? I'm going to borrow, even better, I'm going to solve one of the world's great relationship issues right here in front of your very eyes. In fact, a relationship problem that should never creep up again. Way better than Cosmo, better than Dr. Phil, which is also my Bill Clinton. You know, I don't have a good voice on that one, but here's the thing. Let's say whether you've been in a relationship before or you're in one now, very likely you've heard of this scenario. One person says, oh my gosh, I feel so fat. Do I look fat in these jeans? If you then say, well gosh, Steve said, always say yes and. Yes, you do. And I'm going to go pack my things because I'm probably going to get kicked out. You know, so no, that would be idiotic. You don't say yes to that. But here's what you do. You do recognize that person said something heartfelt, however it comes across. But here's the way to do it. They say, hey, I feel fat in these jeans. Do I look fat in these jeans? And you look at them in their eye, directly in their eye, and as tenderly and as lovingly as possible, you say, I know you feel that way. Will you allow me to feel differently? Will you allow me to see you as perfect, amazing, and awesome? Oh, and I just heard it, oh, that's how it's supposed to go. Exactly, thank you. And so here's the thing. The offer was, hey, do I look fat in these jeans? And the offer actually, you don't have to say yes, and in fact, if you say no, you can actually get into a fight. You're just saying that. And in fact, if you say no, and that's preceded by a hesitation, that's even worse. So here's the thing. The offer is, hey, you look fat in these jeans. You can say, hey, I can accept you. I say yes to you, but I don't have to say yes to the premise. And so I'm accepting your offer of how you feel. Will you now accept my offer to feel otherwise? And so there is the power of improv, to take you from what could be a very tense situation, or again, the person leaves, you lose the client, the sick kid, whatever happens, the report's asked for early. It'd be great to tell you you don't have to do it, but we got to step up and do something. The other thing about improv that I just want to end with is this idea. And by the way, I get the sense from you, just from what we've already established, that you're a pretty smart crowd. And I don't usually like to drop highbrow literature references, but I think it's okay. In Winnie the Pooh, thank you. In Winnie the Pooh, no one gets excited when Eeyore comes around, right? If Christopher Robin and Pooh and Tigger, they're hanging out, and oh great, Eeyore's here, yay. Eeyore is the exact opposite of what improv is. Eeyore is going to take whatever offer is there and make it worse. It's not partly sunny, it's partly cloudy. It's all not good. So by using this system, by using the idea of simply yes and, you deal with the reality of the situation, you accept it, you say, okay, what can I now do with this? How can I let this constraint now be a catalyst for creativity and let some really amazing stuff happen? And the part I absolutely love about this is that using this mindset, this idea, you can have a positive impact on every single interaction you have in your life. Certainly with a partner, spouse, friend, boss, colleague, client, vendor, everybody. And the greatest part is, who knows? You will have the ability to live a richer, fuller, exciting, and deep life. And again, you never know. You also just might discover the next great appetizer in the process. You guys have been great. Thanks so much.
Frank Clay has a wealth of leadership experience as a business owner, board member, corporate executive, trainer, and commander in the U.S. Army. He believes his initial preparation to be a leader came from being a part of the Boy Scouts of America. He is a student of leadership and will soon be releasing his bestseller called Successful Leaders, Big Believers: How to Lead During Challenging Times. Please welcome Frank Clay Jr.
When faced with a major challenge or immediate crisis, successful leaders are big believers in making sure they know how to make a leadership shift. Survey after survey has indicated that leaders are not prepared. One of the most recent surveys had indicated the reason why they're not prepared is because they're not trained. This really bothered me as we went through the pandemic. It bothered me so much that I wrote the book, Successful Leaders, Big Believers, How to Lead During Challenging Times. What I know is, in order for you to have the leadership shift, you must be a big believer in 5 things. You must be a big believer in your people. You must be a big believer in your processes. You must be a big believer in your principles, your values. And you must be a big believer in your purpose. But the main thing you must be a big believer in is yourself, the person. And if you can be a big believer in these things, you will prepare yourself to have the leadership shift. Now, some of us may say that leaders are made, and some of us may believe that leaders are developed. So how many of you believe that leaders are made? How many of you think that leaders are developed? Well, we're not going to have that debate here tonight. Because it doesn't really matter when you're facing a crisis or a major challenge, whether you believe a leader is developed or made. What's most important is that a leader is prepared to lead. And so what I want to do tonight is give you a 5-step process that you can take to make sure that you're ready to make a leadership shift. Now, to give you a picture of how that may look like and how it may feel, let me ask all of you, which I think I'm pretty good at asking this. All of you have bicycles, right? Yeah. Or you're riding a bicycle. How many have a 3-speed? Nobody has 3-speed anymore. 5-speed, 10-speed, 20-speed. It really doesn't matter how many speeds you have. When you're facing an uphill climb, a difficult challenge, a hill that's very steep, you want to make sure that you're in the proper gear before you get there. Isn't that true? You don't want to be in the wrong gear, struggling, trying to get up the hill on your bicycle. You want to be in that nice, easy gear. Well, the same thing goes for leadership. If you want to be prepared to lead during a major challenge or an immediate crisis, you want to make things easy for yourself. And so that's why I talk about the importance of having a leadership shift. Because all of you, whether you believe that you're a leader or not, you're going to have a leadership moment where you will be called upon to make a leadership shift. So what is that? S stands for safe and secure. Your number one responsibility as a leader when you're facing a major challenge is to make sure people are safe and secure. Make sure that they have the proper equipment. They have the supplies that they need. But you're also responsible for making sure that they have the training. You should do some simulation so people can get used to being able to function under extreme circumstances. But more important, to make people safe and secure, you need to be honest with them. You need to tell them about the sincerity and the realistic aspects of the threat that they're facing when they're going through a crisis or major challenge. Too often, leaders take a step back and don't really give a good picture of what people are facing. And it's not so much what you say, it's the fact that they're looking at you as a leader who's commanding the situation. And you have to have that presence in order to lead. Now, having given people a realistic view of what's going on, the next thing you might need to do is to offer hope. Robert E. Perry said, "I will find a way or make one." It's very important for people to hear from a leader, to encourage them, because some people that you're leading may find that the challenge that they're facing is kind of difficult. And so you can put your arm around someone, You can say an encouraging words. But if you don't do any of that, just remember to say, we're going to make it through if we just stick together. Your job is to offer hope when people are going through some challenging times. The next thing, if you're following the word shift, S stands for safe and secure, H stands for hope, you got that, okay, is I, it's information. You are responsible as a leader to manage information. It's very important that you get input and you give out information in the proper manner. It's important to know what people think. It's important to know what they feel. But what I've found in today's time, it's very important for people to tell you what they see. Because in this environment of social media, what people see could be reality. Perceptions are reality. And sometimes what people see can turn into reality. So it's very important that you take time to get input from the people that you're trying to lead, to make sure you have the proper information so that you can set priorities, so you can order people's directions correctly. And then with that information, you need to make sure that you remain focused as a leader. Too many leaders fail because they get distracted. There are a lot of things that are going to happen when you're faced with a major challenge. If you have all the proper information, your job is to take that information and do the best that you can to lead others, to give them a clear vision of how we get from point A to B. Sometimes you may find yourself successful, other times it may not work out, but you keep going with it. You keep at it. You stay focused until the mission is accomplished. That's the job of a leader. That's what you do when you're making the leadership shift. And so therefore, the last thing that you need to do is to be thoughtful. Be thoughtful about the things that people are doing when it comes to dealing with a crisis or major challenge. It's important to note that people make extreme sacrifices in order to get to the point of doing their best work when there's a major challenge or a crisis. And so, how do you do that? You simply say thank you. In a recent survey by a group called the Achievers, close to 50% of the people that went through this last pandemic felt that they were not appreciated for the extraordinary efforts that were made to get us to where we are today. And you know who can make a difference? It's that leader. It's that person that looks like me and you. And so therefore, we need to take time to make sure that we are helping people by giving thanks. Because when you give thanks to people or show gratitude or be thoughtful, what you're doing is you're showing that you respect them. And in my book called Successful Leaders, Big Believers, How to Lead During Challenging Time, I talk about the 5 R's, which means that when people are respected, they respond to you. When they respond to you, they give you the resources that you need to get the job done. When you get the resources, you get the results. When you get the results, you should recognize them. But if you don't recognize people for the results that they provide for you, you essentially show that you have disrespected them for the efforts that they have made, particularly during a crisis or major challenge. It's something that leaders can really do effectively if they're mindful of the leadership shift. And so, Carrie, if you could bring me this can. And I'm going to try to get through this. This can, in the job that I held during 9/11, this was called the Maxwell House Award. And I didn't buy this can because of the coffee. I brought this can because of what's on the front of this can. It says good until the last job. And when 9/11 came, people were doing extremely, extremely difficult things. we had to cut our staff down to a third within days in order to make it possible for the company to survive. And so what I would do is I would ask people to take Post-it notes and just stick it anywhere on this can or top of this can for any effort, anything that anybody did that deserves some appreciation. And I can still reflect on the emotions that took place at the end of the day. And so I don't know when your leadership moment is going to come. It may be today, it may be tomorrow. From the way events are happening today, you never know. But if it does come, I hope you all will remember how to make the leadership shift. How to first make people safe and secure. How to offer hope. How to manage your information. How to remain focused as a leader. And how to be thoughtful. I've enjoyed my time with all of you this evening, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon.
Our next speaker, Mary Redmond, is the fearless negotiator. She'll help you ask what you want and get it. If you're uncomfortable when you ask for a raise, try to land a new client, or hope for a bigger supplier discount, the fearless negotiator will show you how. She's an expert in facing fears and walking through them. Please help me welcome the fearless negotiator, Mary Redmond.
So great to have you here this evening. Do these pants make me look fat? Oh, now what was you supposed to tell me? What did he just teach you? Allow me to have a different opinion. Isn't that what you were ready to say? I know it was. Okay, fearless negotiator. Carrie said I'm fearless. Now, I fear less because I know a whole lot more how to ask for what I want and for what I need. So let's talk about that first negotiation. Do you have to make that noise? Do you really have to make that noise? Do you know what time it is? Oh, that's right. You're an alarm clock. Of course you know what time it is. It's 7 o'clock. I am not a morning person. I don't know how many of you are, but I am not a morning person. And so the alarm goes off, and the negotiation begins. Snooze alarm, anybody a snooze alarm person? I'm so glad to know I'm not alone. How many do you usually hit it? 5 or 6.
Oh, my kind of woman, she hits it 5 or 6 times. Okay, you got me beat. I only do 3. And I hit it, and by the 3rd time, all right, I might use a fist because it's way too early. And that little conversation with an alarm clock is my first negotiation of the day. And it goes on and on from there. Do I wear all black with a red blouse, or do I wear the red vest and the white shirt? Those little voices in my head happen all day long. It's pretty busy in here. I know I'm among people who understand that conversation that happens, and that may be the toughest negotiation you ever have, or will have, is the one that happens in your head. When I am ready for another type of a negotiation, I have to do a whole lot more work than just that one with the snooze alarm. So let's take a thought about what kind of negotiations have you had? I don't know how many of you have ever negotiated with Walmart, but it's possible. I'll tell you about it. I was at the Lake of the Ozarks visiting my sister Nancy, and her deck, no flowers. She said, I need flowers. And I thought, it's the 4th of July, you need flowers? It's a little late. She says, no, I really must have hibiscus.
If you haven't seen hibiscus, they're beautiful, wonderful, colorful flowers, sometimes like this big. She said, let's go to Walmart. I love Walmart. Almost always I love Walmart. And up we drove. Now I said, timing is everything for this negotiation. So we arrived at high noon at 100-degree temperature, and you see all those plants out there. I'm a plant and I'm dying, somebody water me. No water, soil was dry, and I thought, we're gonna get a good deal here. She wanted 4 of them. We walk up to the lady at the counter and I said, I didn't see any sale signs on these. What's up with that? It's the 4th of July, it's 100 degrees. She said, oh, they're not marked down. I said, well, what could you do for me? That's an open-ended question. What can you do for me? She said, maybe 10%. Now, before we arrived, I had set a goal. I want 50% off. I thought that was fair, don't you? I mean, it's the 4th of July. Who else is she going to buy? Who could she sell them to but us? She says, nope, only 10%. I said, how about we call your manager? Manager gets on the phone. She won't dignify me and treat me well enough to come over. She gets on the phone. She says, I suppose I could give you 20%. Now, what was my goal? There you go, 50%. So we aren't even getting warm yet. And I said, well, what can I do about that? And she says, well, you could go up to customer service all the way across the store. Remember my sister Nancy? She was standing right beside me proudly. My sister's the fearless negotiator. As I'm marching up to customer service, I'm, Nancy, Nancy. She didn't want to be, like no one should know that that's her sister. And the next thing I find her is hiding behind swimming suits, peeking out. She doesn't even want to stand beside me and show how proudly we ask for a bigger discount. So customer service, I said, we want to get those flowers in the back. What kind of discount can I get? And she said, none. We are moving in the wrong direction. I've had 10, I've had 20, and now none. What's with this? She said, we have an arrangement with our suppliers, and they'll take back every flower we send them. I can return 100%. What body language did you see? Her head going, we can return them. And her hands on her hips, showing she's the authority. And I thought, she's lying. She can't return dead flowers. Nobody in their right mind would do that. I said, why don't we get the store manager? You know, the ultimate authority, and that's another tip I should give you, is find the ultimate authority. Store manager comes up. I explain my situation. He said, how much would you like to offer for those? I said, 50% off. And he goes, okay, Margaret, write them up, 50% off. Got what I wanted. Yes, that's the way you do it. You have a goal in mind. You walk in, you're prepared, and you make the ask. You make the ask in an open-ended question, and you ask the right person, the decision maker. We were sailing now. I said, Nancy, back up the truck. We got them. And we went home with these beautiful hibiscus flowers. So what are the lessons you've learned? Prepare. Know who you're talking to. Know what you want. I don't always do that, however. I learn a lot from train wrecks. You know, train wrecks are cool unless you're the engineer on the train. It's fun to watch. Let me take you to the days I lived in sunny Southern California. I was single. I thought I was hot. And we're out there in Southern California. And I'm coming home from work one day, and I thought, every cool California girl needs a sports car. And as I'm driving home, I see my car. It's a silver Mitsubishi RX-7. It looks like almost as cool as a Corvette. It is moving When it is sitting still, it's so pretty. I turn my car, my very comfortable Honda Accord, by the way, very sensible, in to get a look and drive an RX-7. And before you know it, I'm going down the 405, wind in my hair, top down. I am in love with this car. It had everything I wanted. Sound system, a giant cup holder. I don't know if any of you like big gulps, but okay, I can't drive without a big gulp right there beside me. It had it all. I said, let's go talk money. Sit down. He says, well, you know, it's $25,000. Yeah, I know. I want to be so proud because I've got enough money. I can buy this and I know my credit's good. My ego is what's talking, not the negotiator. And so when I say, well, how much can you do? Open-ended question, how much can you do? He said, well, you're so lucky you're here today. Let me be honest with you. Don't do business with someone who says, let me be honest with you, because everything that they said before is a lie and everything coming is going to be a lie. So let me be honest, salesman said. I think I can get you maybe $2,000 off. I had no idea whether $2,000 was good or bad. And he said, but I'll take it to my boss. He is gone like 30 seconds. I knew I was in trouble. It didn't take him but 30 seconds. He comes back and he says, oh man, he was tough with me, but I think I can get it. You know, I can't even feed my kids on the money I'm going to make on this deal. I'm worried about his kids. Oh, could you just like another $1,000? Oh, I don't know. You're pushing your limits, lady. Again, back there 30 seconds, he's back and he says, we can make a deal. And I went home with my car of a lifetime, my dream car. I had fallen in love with the car. Don't fall in love with anything that you're going to buy. It's trouble and you'll spend too much money. So I said, okay, I made a bad deal. That's the last bad deal I'm going to make. I came home to Kansas in my sports car, and I said, it's time for a sensible car, and it's also time for a sensible man. I was still single, and I met a fellow who's sitting over there, and he said, I'm a negotiator, and I said, so am I, but I need some help. He said, let me help you buy a car. So there we were, off to the Ford dealership, a sensible car again, a Taurus, a Ford Taurus. We went into the dealership. Before we go, I must tell you, he said, do your homework. My job, negotiator. Your job, research. I researched Kelley Blue Book and asked my banker, and I read books on negotiation, and I read books on cars because I'm ready. I know I had made a bad deal before. When we went in, he said, my job's negotiation, and don't talk in front of the salespeople. I think they're recording what we say. Now, he may have gone a little far on that, but back in the day, there were car dealers who recorded things. And we went in. It was sunny afternoon. It was winter. It was cold. And we started the negotiation. And it went 4 rounds. It started at $18,000, and we brought it down some. And I think it was 4 rounds we went. We were $50 apart. And we were at my target amount, which was $13,750. And that was my target. And we were $50 away. And Dwayne said, flip a coin. We flipped a coin, we lost, it was $50. We didn't care. We were right there on the money that I wanted to pay for a car. Now, you can refocus your thinking about negotiations, because some of you may not negotiate much, and some of you may negotiate all the time, everything you do, starting with that alarm clock. If you begin to look at negotiations now, research, like I did for the car, you look at what your goal is and what their goal is. At Walmart, they want to sell flowers, I want to sell flowers. At the car dealer, they want to sell cars, I want to buy a car. I did my homework. I understood their needs and wants. I knew how to ask for what I wanted. I knew how to listen to what they said to me. Remember the guy who said, I want to be honest with you? At least I heard that part. And it was a warning. So we listen to what they say, we ask good questions, and you will narrow the gap between the price they ask for and the price you want to pay. Whether it's you're buying equipment for your kid's soccer team, or whether you're closing a multi-million-dollar deal, you follow the same steps to negotiate. And doesn't that make you relax a little when you think, this process for these things Mary talked about will help me at what I do? And that's the beauty of negotiations. You rinse and repeat. You do what it takes, and you get what you want. The beginning of every negotiation starts with making the ask. My favorite saying is, if you don't ask, you don't get. You're a fearless negotiator when you ask, because if you ask, you will receive what you want in life. I hope each of you tries one of those techniques this evening or no later than tomorrow. I challenge you to do that. And when you save money, when you close a deal that you didn't know you would, send me an email. Let me know how successful you were. Because I know when you ask, you will receive. Thank you.
Lauren Schieffer, our next speaker, is not going to tell you how to be successful in the 21st century. Nope, she's not going to do it, because that would be doing you a disservice. Instead, our speaker will challenge you to be significant. Lauren Schieffer, CSP, also known as the Colonel's daughter, grew up relocating between Air Force bases every few years. That instilled in her a profound independence and ability to adapt to changing circumstances with grace and humor. It also cemented her ability to make a positive impact in others' lives quickly and regardless of the circumstance. Here to help us choose significance and tell us why that leads to even greater success, please help me welcome the Colonel's daughter, Lauren Schieffer, CSP.
Good evening. I want you to think about one of the most profound and valuable lessons that you've ever learned in your life. Got it? Do you remember where you were when you learned that lesson? Most of us do. I know exactly where I was when I learned many of the most profound lessons in my life. Sitting cross-legged on the driveway with my father as he worked on one of our cars. My father was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. He stood 6 feet, 6.5 inches tall, and was 285 pounds on his very leanest day. Dad had a personality that entered the room 5 minutes before he did. The colonel was an all-around handyman, a Mr. Fix-It, truly the MacGyver of his day. He was always working on or tinkering with something. He'd work around the house. He'd work on our cars. Heck, he'd work on the neighbors' cars. And I would help him. Helping him usually involved sitting with him to keep him company and handing him a tool every now and then while he talked to me about life. So many times as he was imparting his wisdom to me, he would stop in the middle of his sentence and he would say, "Pay attention, kid. This right here, this is a road sign in your life. You have to decide if you're going to follow it or not." It wasn't until after he died that I realized what he was really talking about. The road signs were life lessons. They were guideposts that he knew would be crucial to my health and my happiness and my positive impact on the world. Nowadays, I call those kernels of wisdom. Every day, in one way or another, the kernel encouraged me to be significant. You see, most people are programmed to chase success. Success is inwardly focused. Success is about how much money you make and what your title is and the accumulation of stuff and trophies and accolades. Success is about me. Significance, on the other hand, is about we. Significance is outwardly focused. Significance has nothing whatsoever to do with how much money you have or make, or what your title is, or what your perceived power is. It's not about compensation packages and parking spots. Significance is about how many lives you touch and the manner in which you choose to impact them, because how we impact others is a choice. Significant leaders are intentional in having a positive impact. In addition, significant leaders empower those they are leading to create their own legacy of significance and carry the concept forward. Indeed, you will know that you are a significant leader when people who talk about you, they don't talk about what you've achieved for yourself, but rather what you've accomplished to benefit others. The Colonel used to say, anyone can be successful, kiddo. Making money, climbing the corporate ladder, that's easy. Choose to be significant. Following that road sign, that kernel of wisdom, has become part of my life's work. And because of that, I have had the privilege of sitting at the feet of many significant leaders, in addition to my father. And I've learned bits and pieces from each of them. I've noticed, though, that all of them have certain characteristics in common. And over the past few years, I have condensed what I believe to be the most indisposable of those characteristics into my 9 essentials of significant leadership. Today, I'd like to share 2 of them with you. The first is this: treat all people with respect. Now that may seem like a very simple concept, but in practice, it's a lot more complicated than that. You know, I read in a book once when I was younger than I am today. The book was called How to Deal with Difficult People. It was by Paul Friedman. I don't know if Friedman intended this to be profound. It was profound to me. And I took it on as a standard for my life. Friedman said this: I choose to treat this person with respect, whether or not I like what they think, say, or do. Now, to me, that means that even though they're not treating me with respect, I choose to treat them with respect. And the operative word in that sentence would be what? Choose. Choose, yes, thank you. It's a choice. It's a choice we make every day. I call it walking higher ground. It is the foundation upon which I've tried to build my life and my business. Now, some people think that functioning from that paradigm, treating other people with respect, even though they're not treating me with respect, some people think that would put them at a disadvantage. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because higher ground is always the most powerful place to be. I mean, certainly from a military perspective, higher ground is the most powerful place to be. But also from a personal perspective. Because when we are on higher ground, we rarely, if ever, need to question our intentions or apologize for our behaviors. Now, it's really important that you understand what I'm asking of you today. I'm not asking you to respect all people. I've met people. I know people. I've encountered people I've observed, I've seen people who I absolutely cannot in any way respect. Maybe, for whatever reason, maybe it's the choices that they've made. Maybe it's their behaviors or the words that they choose or our differing ethics. For whatever reason, I can in no way respect them. That doesn't mean I don't choose to treat them with respect. And that's the difference between respect for someone and respect to someone. Significant leaders endeavor to treat all people with respect, whether or not you like what they think, say, or do. Our theme this evening is refresh, renew, refocus, reimagine. Fresh, new focus. Imagine. Our next essential nugget is the ability to do just that. It is open your mind to new possibilities. Now, sometimes that means that we have to be willing to learn and grow from our mistakes and our misfortunes. Make adjustments and keep moving on. The Colonel used to say, use what you've got and just show up, kid. Stumbling block or stepping stone? The choice is yours. What's it going to be? There are so many things that have happened over this past year that could easily be called stumbling blocks. And I don't mean to make light of any of them. But what if you could look at them from a different direction? What if you could make small adjustments that would allow you to turn even one of your stumbling blocks into a stepping stone? Where would that take you? When I was a small girl of 6, maybe 7 years old, Dad spent countless hours and what my mother called an obscene amount of money building a remote control model airplane. Now, back in those days, they were called radio controlled, and the technology was brand new, cutting edge for its day. I remember helping to paint the wings with a black and white feather pattern and sitting with him in the garage as he worked on it every night. This thing was massive. It had a 6-foot wingspan and took up all of the space in the garage during the 1.5 years that he spent building it. I remember the anticipation and the excitement on that fall morning when we all climbed into the Jeep, pulling the plane in a flatbed behind us, and we drove out to the mesa south of Chandler, Arizona. This was going to be the day that we were going to finally test the bird on her maiden flight. I remember it took several hours to get everything ready. Now, Mom and the kids, we were on runway duty. It was our job with brooms and rakes to clear out all of the rocks and the debris from a relatively flat area of the desert to create a runway so that nothing would be an obstacle for takeoff. Dad had to check the wind patterns, and then he had to recheck the wind patterns. And then he connected the receivers and made sure that they were working. Then he checked the wind patterns. Then he had to set up the cameras, both still and 8mm, to record the moment for posterity. And then there needed to be one final check of the wind patterns. Finally, everything was ready. Dad grabbed the control box and fired up the propeller. Here goes nothing. Slowly, he pushed the throttle lever forward, and the plane started moving down the runway, faster and faster. And it seemed before we could blink, the bird was in the air and flying and flying and flying and flying. Mom squinted into the wind, into the sun. Are you going to turn it back before it gets out of range? We watched it get smaller in the distance, I'm not quite sure how to do that. I didn't think that far ahead. I didn't think she'd actually fly today. So there we all stood, watching a year and a half of Dad's life and an obscene amount of money fly off into the distance, never to be seen again. Well, we drove across the desert for hours, well after dark, but we never actually found the plane. Well, Mom never let Dad forget that last lost toy. The lessons we learned from that costly mistake were invaluable. We learned to expect the unexpected. We learned to always have a backup plan. We learned that those things you're not thinking about are the very things that are going to go wrong. And Dad learned to never again share with Mom how much he'd spent on one of his projects. Most importantly, the lessons that first radio-controlled debacle taught Dad allowed him to open his mind to new possibilities. For him, it was not a stumbling block, it was a stepping stone. It inspired him to build a second, and many more after that, every time finding new ways to improve the design or adjust the structure. Or sometimes he would sculpt his own airfoils for the wings. He tried hundreds of different materials. Some worked well, others didn't. But each iteration taught him valuable lessons. And when he became the division chief of the Air Force Flight Dynamics Laboratory, his tenacity paid off as his team designed new structures and new technologies and new materials for drones and planes that are still in the air today, like the B-2 stealth bomber and the F-series fighter jets. What are the stumbling blocks that you have encountered, or maybe are going through right now? Granted, some of them may be bigger than seeing a couple of $1,000s in a year and a half of your life fly off into the distance, never to be seen again. But what if you could look at them differently? What if you could take the lessons that you've learned and turn them into stepping stones? What if you could take what you've learned and put it into practice to benefit someone else? As you create your fresh, new focus and reimagine the next phase of your journey, how could you take the lessons from the last year and use them to be more significant than you could have ever dreamed that you could? The Colonel focused his time and his energy on being a significant leader and encouraging his daughters to do the same. I am the Colonel's daughter. Significant leadership has become part of my life's purpose and passion. I'd love it if you all would consider joining me in that endeavor. Because, folks, anyone can be successful. Choose to be significant. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the masked speaker. No, it's the NSA Kansas City Reimagine event, and I'm so glad that you're joining us. We're interrupting your program at the moment to talk to you about the value of hiring speakers from the National Speakers Association, specifically from the Kansas City chapter. As you can see, we're in the City of Fountains, which means we have a lot to celebrate all year long. And right now, you're having the best opportunity to get a sneak peek at some of the very best speakers that we have right here in this region. My name is Stephen Iverson. I'm the past president of the NSA Kansas City chapter, and I want to tell you how proud I am of every single one of these speakers that you're getting the chance to hear tonight. A lot of work has gone into this specific event. In fact, what should have been done over a year ago, you already know, was delayed and reimagined just for you. And what you're finding out tonight through these presentations by these incredible speakers, that every single one of our members is prepared at a moment's notice to jump in to help you have an exceptional experience, either for your association, for your team members, for your company, whatever it may be. I want to encourage you, don't go too far to try to find speakers for your event. Tap into these folks, either virtually or live, and you'll be, I promise you, pleased with the experience that they bring to your organization. That actually was pretty good. I think I'll stick with that. Do we need more? Well, here, how about this? Hey, our speakers tonight are so funny. Get this. You're going to be laughing with milk shooting out your nose.
Ron Root is celebrated as a fun and inventive customer experience design speaker and business coach who teaches entrepreneurs how to attract the high-spending, loyal, raving customers they really want most. Ron is also the founder of Inspire Imaginativity Institute, a learning center where business owners discover how to harness the power of inspiration, imagination, and creativity to overcome their greatest business challenges. Today, Ron brings that Inspire Imaginativity spirit to the stage to teach you the value of embracing a visionary's mindset to reimagine and renew the customer experience your business delivers now and into the future. Please join me in welcoming the man I call Professor Inspire Imaginativity, Ron Root.
Welcome, class, to the MTH campus of the Inspire Imaginativity Institute. So glad to see all of you. Today we celebrate the masters of Inspire Imaginativity, the creative, curious, forward-thinking visionaries of yesterday and today. And I'm going to ask all of you to join me in this celebration by first raising whatever your favorite hand is in the air. Get it up there, and give your wrist a little room to wiggle around a little bit like this, okay? Now, what I want you to do is please repeat after me. All hail the visionaries. All hail the visionaries. Yeah, did I mention this was a celebration? Maybe I didn't. I'll tell you what. That's on me, because I'm guessing I did not say that strong enough. This is a celebration of the visionaries. So one more time, if you would, hands in the air, and this time with a little enthusiasm, all hail the visionaries. All hail the visionaries. Awesome. Now, in the creative world, we support each other with a little applause. So go ahead and do that. So I hold in my hand, speaking of visionaries, the most significant clue to the most significant invention ever known to man. This is the most significant clue to the most significant invention ever known to man. Now, if you know what that invention was, go ahead and shout it out. What was the invention? The wheel. You know what? I knew this was going to be the smartest class I'd have all semester. You guys are incredible. Absolutely. But what a lot of people don't know is when the wheel was invented in the year 3500 BC, and no, I wasn't there, but when it was invented in the year 3500 BC, it was invented for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to be a potter's wheel, which means it laid on its side on a potter's table, horizontally, spinning around and around and around, going absolutely nowhere. And it remained like that for 300 years until one day a curious, forward-thinking visionary came along and asked the most significant question that had ever been asked about the most significant invention ever known to man. What would happen if we flip it like this? And the entire classroom erupted with all hail the visionary! All hail the visionary! Absolutely, because that one flip launched a wheel renaissance, a rebirth of the wheel that changed the world as other curious, creative, forward-thinking visionaries came along and continued to flip the wheel in all sorts of different directions in order to reimagine and renew its purpose, generating countless innovations and inventions that we just cannot live without today. I mean, Think about it. One day in your life without the wheel. All hail the visionaries.
All hail the visionaries.
Absolutely. Now, what if this wheel were your business? And what if you were to flip it like this to reimagine and renew the customer experience you provide in your business? And what if that one flip changed your customer's world, became an experience they just couldn't live without? And as a bonus, what if that flip kept your business upright for years and years to come? Because now, with this reimagined and renewed customer experience that you're delivering, you're now attracting the high spending, the loyal, the raving fans you've always wanted most. Now, anything is possible if you embrace the curious, creative, forward-thinking mindset of a business visionary. So, to help you fully realize your potential as a business visionary, I brought with me tonight, directly from the Imaginativity Institute, an invention of my own making. This is, ladies and gentlemen, the Flipmaster 3000. Thank you. Yeah, that works as well. Now, as you can tell, this is a very complex and complicated device designed to, it's designed to spell out the 6 essential steps a business visionary needs in order to reimagine their experience, to flip it, if you will. And because it is still a new invention, it's a beta project, which means it has to be operated manually. So, I've invited my very capable and very well-trained teaching assistant, Robin, to join me. She will be extracting the data from the Flipmaster 3000. I, in turn, will be translating that data for all of you. So, what is the first flip it step from the Flipmaster? It is an F. Follow your curiosity on a quest to answer the most significant questions about the most significant elements of the experience you deliver. The answer should lead you to make your business more easily accessible, more warmly accommodating, more instantly accountable, more genuinely appreciative, and most of all, more must-have appealing to the customers you want most. So that's first step is an F. What is that second step, Robin, from the Flipmaster? The flip it step is an L. Let go of the status quo. See, allowing the experience you deliver to get caught in that rut makes your business ordinary and average. And here's the challenge, is that customers are never loyal to ordinary, and they rarely ever refer average, but they will tell the world about the most remarkable experiences they've ever enjoyed from any business that they've done business with, where they feel that they were treated like they were valued, important, and as though the experience that they were enjoying was created solely with them in mind. So we have the F and the L of the first 2 steps. Robin, what is that third step from the Flipmaster? Oh, it is an I. Infuse inspiration. See, keep a closer eye on the businesses that have earned your loyalty through the experiences they deliver. It is okay. It is absolutely okay to be inspired by those businesses and to infuse the experiences they deliver into your own business if they fit. See, contrary to popular belief, no one holds a patent on delivering remarkable experiences. You are free to exceed expectations any way you choose, regardless of where the inspiration came from. So, Robin, we have an F, an L, an I. What is that fourth flip step? It is a P. Practice persistence. Designing a remarkable experience is actually the easy part. But visionaries know that a lot of times when you implement a new design or idea, it can come with challenges. That's why they are so persistent navigating their way through difficulties and setbacks, because visionaries want to see their visions come to life. So we have an F, an L, I, and a P. What is the fifth flip it step? Oh, another I. Invite collaboration. Ask your frontline workers to join you in determining what elements of the experience you deliver are most in need of being flipped and how best to go about flipping them. You see, your frontline workers, the people that have hands-on experience with your customers, are your most valuable asset when it comes to determining how to reimagine the experience you deliver. And here's the other part. Visionaries respect that we is always smarter than me. We is always smarter than me. So we have an F, L, I, P. I'm just dying to know what the sixth step is going to be. An I, and the next step is a T. Take time. Yeah, ooh. What a surprise for all of us. So a T. Take time for creative play. And I'm not talking about the type of creative play that only requires 2 thumbs. I'm talking about the type of creative play that really stretches your imagination, because when it comes time to generate ideas to reimagine the experience you deliver, well, you want to accumulate as many ideas as you possibly can, and then let the either individually or collectively let them lead you to the best ideas. Now, rather than trying to explain that, I thought maybe we would have a little fun and actually experiment with an idea here. So, as you know, this has been my prop for a wheel tonight, but now it is no longer a prop for the wheel. It is whatever you want it to be. So here's what's going to happen. In just a moment, we are going to set a 20-second timer. And during that 20 seconds, what I'd like for you to do is shout out as many ideas as you possibly can on how we could repurpose this wheel. Now, no idea is too crazy, no idea is too outlandish. Doesn't matter. Every idea matters. Now, it could be something like, we're bowling with disc. Or maybe it's something like the world's giant aspirin for the most excruciating headache. Yeah? Okay, so does everybody understand this? Say yes? Yes. All right, now I want to make certain that you are actually in the spirit. So here's what we're going to do. I need you all to repeat after me, and I want you to really put some heart into this. Here we go. You ready? I am curious.
I am curious.
I am creative.
I am creative.
I am a visionary.
I am a visionary.
Yes, I think you're ready to go. All right, we're going to set a 20-second timer. I'm looking at it now. Robin is going to count how many ideas you come up with. So hang tight. 3, 2, 1. Hit it.
Birthday cake.
Birthday cake. That's one.
The serving tray to bring me my drinks.
Serving drinks, absolutely. Frisbee, yes.
Hockey puck.
A mask, yes. What else?
Hat.
A hat. Oh, a hat. Yes, a hat.
A plug for a hole in the dam.
A plug for the hole in the dam. I like that. What else?
Pedestal for me.
Okay, your 20 seconds are up. Okay, so how many ideas did they come up with? 20. 20. Wow. So once again, in the creative world, we support each other. Now, you came up with 20 ideas in 20 seconds of what we could do with this just from a free flow of ideas. Imagine how many more ideas you could have come up with if you were given a minute or a full day. See, this same exercise will work in your business when it comes time to reimagine the experience that you deliver. You just have to let the ideas flow, and eventually you'll accumulate so many ideas that either individually or collectively they will lead you to the best idea. Now, granted, not every idea is going to fit into your budget. Not every idea is going to fit into your time constraints. But again, accumulating enough ideas without critical thinking, you'll have enough ideas that are going to help you reimagine that business better than you ever imagined. All right, so we're going to do a quick review. Here we go. I need your help. Give me an F. F. That's follow your curiosity. Give me an L. Let go of that status quo. Give me an I. Infuse inspiration. Give me a P. Practice persistence. Give me an I. Invite collaboration. Give me a T. Take time for play. Now, if you follow these 6 steps to the letter, If you come on! If follow these 6 steps to the letter, you'll not only graduate with honors from the Imaginativity Institute, you will begin to attract those high spending, those loyal, those raving customers you've always wanted. And before you know it, they will be joining me and the rest of the world in saying, all hail the business visionaries. Thank you so much. Class is dismissed.
Our next speaker, Elizabeth Critton, MBA, is an entrepreneur, author, and speaker. No stranger to adversity, she overcame the odds, moving from welfare to wealth. She obtained acclaim as America's top Avon sales representative, selling more than $7 million in products and earning Avon's highest honor, Woman of Enterprise. Her book, From Knocking on Doors to Making Millions, Top Strategies for Direct Sales Success, is a required resource for entrepreneurial managers and companies. Elizabeth delivers workshops and keynotes that inspire audiences to defy roadblocks and exceed expectations. Her program, From Goal to Go, transforms lofty but languishing goals into straightforward steps to success. She solves stuck. Please welcome Elizabeth Critton.
As small business entrepreneurs, we know how to hustle, right? I mean, you think back to like when you first started business and you had to hustle. I mean, you had all the energy and excitement. You had these business goals you wanted to make and you worked. And you tried this thing, and you tried that thing, and you tried everything. You asked everyone, what did you do? What do you do? And eventually, if you're lucky and if you're still in business, you figured out the magic formula for you, right? You figured out you have this machine working. You just go, 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 and your business is humming along. And then sometimes something comes in and knocks you off track. A year ago, when we originally planned to do this, I was going to bring up the recession of 2009. Yeah, since then a few things have happened, right? So I don't even have to like convince anyone that stuff can come in and knock you off track. We all know it happens. But that's the moment that we require resiliency, right? And there's a term that people are talking about all the time now. I keep reading all these articles about it. And oh, they drive me nuts. I just get so upset. They're like, you should find supportive friends. Take up a hobby. Learn to meditate. And I'm like, but then what? I can't meet sales goals with meditation. I can't feed my kids on a hobby. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've got the Calm app on my phone. I've got a tray of crystals. And depending on my mood that day, I pick the crystal that I want. But those crystals don't pay my bills, right? I'm like, I need something I can work with. I need functional resiliency. So that's what I want to talk about tonight. Functional resiliency, something you can use to get back on track, to get your business back on track. Now, the nice thing is, it's super simple. I mean, for anyone who's an entrepreneur, anyone in business, you work with customers, right? And we all do the same thing with each customer. You greet the customer, you figure out what they need, and you deliver the goods. Doesn't matter if it's a hamburger, Coke and fries, face cream, face wash, and mascara, it doesn't matter, right? Greet them, figure out what they want, and deliver it. Now, I had a store for a little over a dozen years, and there are times when the store would be slow. You could see a customer coming. You could see them coming before they even walked in. There are times you might be a little busy, and then you hear the doorbell, there's a customer, you go greet them. And sometimes you're real busy and you're working on different things, and then all of a sudden, oh, hello, they just sneak up on you. It happens, right? And that's the same thing with change, with disruption. You need to greet it, you need to accept it's there, but it comes in all different forms, right? Like, we didn't know exactly what the pandemic was going to be like when it arrived, but we saw that sucker coming a half a planet away, right? I mean, there are things that happen to people, a tornado will rip through their business. You know that when you hear the alarm. There's subtle stuff, like small events over the course of years, and suddenly you realize you're not doing with your life what you wanted to. Now that sneaks up on you. Whatever the source of change, whatever the source of disruption, it's real important to just greet it like you would a customer. The issue becomes when people get stuck in that cycle of grief, right? We've got denial and anger and sadness and bargaining, and people will get stuck there. But if you think of it like a customer, you don't never not greet the customer, right? When they walk in, I mean, you might be like, oh God, not them again. But you still greet them. You still work with them. And so when change happens, disruption happens, greet it. Understand you're going to go through the emotions, but you're going to greet the change. Step one. And that leads us to the next step. Figure out what they want, right? And when it comes to yourself and your business and change, there's 3 areas to look at. What do these areas need? Okay, so the first one is yourself. What do you need to make it through this change? This is where the articles are helpful. This is where you have friends you get drunk with at the bowling alley, or you do your meditation app, or you talk to your therapist once a week, or you do all 3. But you figure out what you need, your self needs, to make it through this change. Another area that you need to figure out what's needed is the situation. The situation has changed. The world has changed. I hate buzzwords, but the word everyone's used all year long is pivot. How are you going to pivot? Are you going to pivot towards it, away from it, under it, over it, work with it? I made a whole lot of money during the recession, and there are people making a whole lot of money during the pandemic, right? So just because it feels like a bad thing, it's not always a bad thing for everybody. But figuring out, what does this situation need, right? You've got yourself, you've got your situation, and the third is your strategy. What does your strategy need, right? You're a different person, the situation's a different situation. The old plan is not going to, the old plan for the old you and the old situation isn't going to take the new you to the new place, right? What does your strategy need? And this is when you look into outside resources. So this is when you pull in a business mentor, a coach, accountability partner, CEO roundtable. You read some books, you take a class. You might have to learn something new to build a new strategy. But if you think about it, it's a lot like the way things were when you first started your business. You're back to hustling. You're back to trying this thing, trying that thing, figuring out what works. And once you have a plan in place, that's when you take action. You deliver the goods. You take action just as if your business were new. Because seriously, when it's big change and big disruption, you might as well be in a new business, right? Now, sometimes in business, we'll go through all 3 steps, welcome to Burger King, what do you want? Burnt Cocoa fries, great. You figure out what they need, you assemble it, you toss it out the window, you never hear from them again, right? You will never know if you gave them that ketchup packet, right? I mean, you'll never know. But then in some businesses, it's a 4-day contract, it's a 4-week contract, it's an ongoing relationship. In those kind of business environments, you do follow-up. You have to keep checking in. Well, is this working out okay? Are you happy? Because you want the contract to continue, right? And anyone in sales has probably heard this one, but the fortune is in the follow-up. That's where the money's at. And if the fortune's in the follow-up with your customer, the fortune is in the follow-up with your business plan, with your strategy, with your action. So you're going to take action, you're going to try these things, but you're going to want to check in. Is this the right way to go? Is that the right way? Did I pick the right thing? I took their advice. Oh my God, they don't know what they're doing. Let me check the other person's advice. The best advice I've heard is you can't see the label from inside the jar, right? You don't know what's happening because you're so stuck in it. So again, in follow-up, you're going to go to your outside people, your outside resources, those who can help you see straight in business. And that's pretty much the 3 steps, right? Greet the change, figure out what it needs, and figure out a course of action. And if you're worth it, if your children like to be fed 3 times a day, you like to keep a roof over your head, you're going to follow up with your strategy, you're going to follow up with your plan, and make sure that it's working. Now, the first time you try it out, are you going to be great? No, you're probably stink pretty bad at it. The second time, you're going to get better and better. Some people look like they've come to it naturally, but it's because they've tried it over and over. They're no longer afraid of change. Well, they might be afraid, but they no longer appear afraid of change. They're like, wonderful. And so you're the change of the day. How are you doing? How can I help you? What should I do to greet you? Let's take action and figure out how to keep moving forward to make this work. Other people can do it. You can do it too. That's functional resiliency. You've got this.
You can market all you like, but people believe what they experience. Jack Mackey made that discovery as an executive with one of the world's leading customer experience firms, SMG. With Jack's business development leadership, SMG increased client count 1,000% over 10 years. The team generated $50 million in annual recurring revenue. They achieved 95% client retention and had fun doing it. Jack shows how to engage, win, and keep loyal customers. Plus, you'll learn how to enjoy your work, embrace tough challenges, and grow your own personal success too. Please give a warm welcome to Jack Mackey.
Hi there. We're going to have a good time together, especially if you enjoy concrete examples better than general theory. In fact, I had 3 specific things that I've learned in business that I'm going to share with you that have the potential to transform your career and, as Carrie said, help you enjoy kind of doing it. And the first thing I learned in business is to grow more, give more. Let me give you an example. This is what I call the John Ross growth story. By his own admission, John Ross was a skinny, red-headed, awkward teenager, but he could play the piano, and that landed him a seasonal job at a music store in a mall as a stock boy. Well, back in the days when families went Christmas shopping at the mall, a lot of times the parents would let the kids run around by themselves. And many of them would wander into John's store and they'd pound on the pianos, and the salespeople hated that. But John was kind of bored being the stock boy, and he was happy to engage with these kids. And he'd chat with them and he'd say, "Hey, sit down here with me. Let's play something." And he would show the kid how to play something short and simple. And after a couple of minutes, and the kid finally had it, he'd say, "Wow, you're doing great." He said, "Why don't you go get your mom? Play it for her." So the kid would run and, get his mom, and she'd come back and she'd be duly impressed and proud. And John would say, "It only took me a couple of minutes to teach your kid this. Gee, could you imagine if you were taking lessons?" and sometimes the women would go, "Oh, that's great, let's do it." But more often they'd say, "Well, we can't really afford a piano." And John would say, "Oh, I get it. That's no problem. We got a rental program. In fact, if your kid takes lessons, all that money goes straight to the purchase. And if it doesn't work out, you can just bring it back. But gee, look what he's already accomplished in one afternoon." And the mom would say, "Really?" And John would say, "Yeah. All we have to do is fill out this form." And then John, the stock boy, would go back to the sales department and give them the form to finish up the paperwork. Now here's where it gets interesting. Unbeknownst to John, the store manager is crossing the names of the salespeople off those forms. He knows they didn't make those sales. Instead, he puts John's name down. So right after the Christmas season's over, the CEO of the entire 80-unit chain comes to congratulate the store team. And the first question he asks the assembled group is, "Where is this John Ross person?" And John raises his hand. The CEO sizes him up and says, "He's a kid." "John, how is this possible? You're not even a real salesperson. But it says here that you've sold a ton of stuff and all the lessons in this store are filled up."
you must be doing something right. And of course, John got promoted to become a real salesperson, and that was the launch of a career that kept on growing. In fact, if you were to meet John Ross today, he's the president and CEO of a $36 billion retail consortium called IGA. So, whether your goal is to be the CEO, or your goal is to just get as fast as you can to the next promotion, you can do that by giving more of yourself. That's when I say to grow more, give more. And that's the very first thing I learned in business. The second thing I learned in business was to lead better, inspire loyalty. If you're a leader, the best thing you can do to start with is to create a culture where everyone is treated with dignity, honor, and respect. Obviously, that's how we'd like to be treated. And from a business perspective, all business is personal. It goes where it's invited, and it stays where it's appreciated. And when people appreciate you, they become loyal. And when they become loyal, they don't just stay, they buy a lot more over time. And they might even send you new customers or say something nice about you on social media. But I've got to warn you, if you haven't already discovered this, social media exposes the gaps between what you promise and what you actually deliver. Who remembers the airline that invites you to fly the friendly skies? What airline says, fly the friendly skies of United, yes. And who saw the viral videos a couple of years ago of United Airlines dragging a paid passenger off an overbooked flight? And that was an interesting episode because they broke his tooth, they broke his arm, and they gave him a concussion. And ironically, that passenger was a doctor. Well, Twitter lit up that night with sarcastic recommendations for new mottos besides fly the friendly skies. The one I remember the best said, bored as a doctor, leave as a patient. We can laugh now 4 years later. Right? First we seat you, then we beat you. And you know, we're all laughing about this now. I'm laughing because the law of karma guarantees United Airlines is to have some serious payback. And sure enough, you know what it cost them to settle with that doctor? $140 million. Worse than that, their stock value dropped $1 billion overnight. So experiences have consequences, both good and bad. Talk about the good for a minute. Every year, Southwest Airlines is recognized as #1 in customer experience and loyalty. And when I meet Teresa Laraba, she is the Vice President of Customer Service at Southwest Airlines. I'm surprised that at that level of executive, she is sharing an office with another executive, the Vice President of Operations. And I asked her about it, she says, well, Jack, we're pretty much joined at the hip because in our business, in the airline business, our operation is our customer service. She says, you know, when things are going reliably and everything is working just like it's supposed to, you'd be amazed. The passengers, they smile at us first. They're glad to see us. And they're much more likely to laugh at the flight attendant's jokes. Boy, when operations go bad, it's ugly. They miss their flights, they lose their luggage, they file complaints. Fortunately, she said, thanks to our crackerjack operations team, they're really the foundation for our reputation for service excellence. And even given all that, then they pile on these great customer-friendly operating policies like, hey, your bags fly free, you can change your ticket at the last minute with no penalty. But even with all that, does any of us really believe in any business, you think it's possible for your customers to love you if your employees don't? Is that possible? Not very likely. It's not very likely. And this is where Southwest, again, excels because they have a legendary reputation for being a great place to work. And who wouldn't want to work in a fun, loving environment where everybody's motivated and they're very excellent at hospitality? So what kind of people do they attract? That same kind of people. And they're not just hiring employees. What they've done over the years is they're building a community that focuses on their motto. And you know what it is at Southwest Airlines? Love. Love is their motto. And that's why when you're a passenger and you go on a Southwest Airlines flight, you can just sense that this is authentic. They really do like each other, they like you, they're having a good time serving you. And that is, I won't say the secret to their success, but the strategy behind their success is this. They design their entire operation to ensure a positive impact on everyone their organization comes in contact with. Customer, employee, vendor, government partner, everybody. So it's just like in a family. You know, if you want to have a family with a good culture, it begins with leadership. And so what I learned, the second thing was to lead better, inspire loyalty. And the good news is it doesn't cost much money to do that. You know, now it does take a lot of time and effort, and that leads to a challenge. Where do we get the strength and the stamina year after year to go through business ups and downs and just the rough and ready of things changing? And that leads to my third discovery in business. To really live fully, we must embrace our challenges. Embrace challenges is not the same as accepting challenges or suffering through challenges. Embracing challenges means that. Passionately embrace that challenge. And Barbara Corcoran is a great example of a person who is an expert at plowing through unexpected difficulties and bad news. Barbara grew up in a 2-bedroom house with, picture this, 10 kids. Just imagine living there. Then she was branded as the dumb kid of the group because she couldn't learn to read or write. It's because she was dyslexic before people knew what that was. And then she went through 22 jobs before she finally found something she was decent at, which was real estate. So she ends up moving in with her business partner / boyfriend and his 3 kids, and over the next 7 years, they build a pretty good real estate business. Until the day he walks in and tells her, "I'm going to marry your assistant." Yeah, doesn't that just take the air out of you? And so naturally, she's got to be crushed, humiliated, but she pulls herself together and she figures out how to reinvent her way out of that. And she goes back to her ex now and says, "We're splitting this partnership in half." And she said, "I'm starting my own company." So that's exactly what they do. And the last time her ex sees her, he says to her, "You know, Barbara, you'll never make it without me." Oh, the burn. I can almost feel it. I'm sure you can too. She would rather die than let that fella see her fail. And sure enough, what happens over the next 10 years? She becomes so popular, so famous, that she is known as the Queen of New York City real estate. And because she was genius at creating a great place to work, she attracted all the best agents in the area, and they sold billions every year. In her 50s, Barbara sold that business for $70 million. Now, she takes that $70 million small fortune and she gets herself invited to be a shark on Shark Tank. And she's excited. And then 4 days before they're going to start filming in Hollywood, she gets a call. Oh, they're sorry to tell her they've taken a step back and they're going to go another direction, and they're actually going to use somebody that's kind of got movie star good looks and again is about half her age. Oh. And she's same feelings, humiliation, anger, frustration. But she pulls herself together and she fires off an email to Mark Burnett, the executive producer. And she says, "I consider your rejection a lucky charm because everything in my life that's been good has come on the heels of failure." And she proposes, "Why don't you have both of us girls come out and get on the show with the boys and see how the chemistry works? Because, you know, it's never going to be just about one person. On a team show like that, the chemistry matters, don't you think?" And Mark Burnett agrees with her. And so that's what they do. And naturally, Barbara wins that competition. She is now in her 12th year on Shark Tank. And she will tell you herself that the key to her overcoming all those obstacles comes down to an attitude. And it's an attitude of not giving up, of never quitting, of fighting back, of finding a new way, of staying in the game. And when you hear that, you kind of feel the passion. This is what embracing challenges means versus dealing with challenges. And that's the third thing I learned in business. If you want to not just be successful, but live fully, you're going to need to embrace your challenges. And if you have been growing by giving more, and if you have been leading by inspiring loyalty, there are going to be many people in your life that think well of you. They care about you. And I believe that to live fully could be measured by the relationships you have with people that there's a mutual trust and respect, and they're willing to support and encourage you. I read a little snippet by Warren Buffett. He said, when you get to be my age, if nobody cares about you, your life was a disaster. So let me leave you with an inspirational thought by Nelson Mandela. As you know, he was the first president elected in South Africa to lead them out of apartheid. And in his first speech, he told the nation, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Yet we ask ourselves, who am I to be talented, brilliant, gorgeous, fabulous? But the question is, who are you not to be all of that? And ladies and gentlemen, when you look back on all you accomplish in your career and your life, people will always remember you for the way you dealt with your biggest challenges. So let's leave here determined to fight the good fight, keep the faith, and finish the race with our heads held high. Cheers. Thank you.
Devin Henderson is a multi-talented powerhouse, an author, experienced presenter, and seasoned performer, having logged thousands of performances as an award-winning comedian and magician and in-demand keynote speaker. His clients include Pepsi, Hallmark, Cerner, and hundreds more. His performances have been called unreal, unexpected, and unforgettable. Get ready for entertainment meets inspiration, and please join me in welcoming Devin Henderson.
Well, thank you. Tonight I'm here for one main reason. And something greater was something that I call the possibility mindset. The possibility mindset responds to fear, to challenge, to uncertainty, and it asks the question, what else is possible? It asks what else is possible and never stops asking, no matter what's happening in your world or in the world. And I've applied the possibility mindset to so many things in my life, and it has allowed me to accomplish and just experience some really cool things. From soccer kicks, thank you, to soccer tricks, to magic tricks, and as I'll tell you about later on, even performing on the world's biggest stage, America's Got Talent. And this concept applies to the seemingly impossible things that you want to achieve, and it can help you reimagine possibilities for yourself, no matter what the future holds. So, I am going to help you discover greater possibilities in a couple of ways. In a few minutes, by telling you more about my personal story. But first, through the art of magic. Because magic defies the impossible.
So if you all are ready for a little magic, let me hear you say, let's do this. Let's do this. All right, good deal. Tell you what, I'll start by telling you how I got into magic. So I started when I was 11 years old, and I was inspired to become a magician by the new kids on the block. Who wasn't? And I remember seeing footage of Joey McIntyre backstage. Any Joey fans out there? None. All right. So Joey took a handkerchief, stuffed it into his hand, and then he did this. No sleeves. Made it completely disappear, and then out of nowhere, brought that handkerchief right back. Yeah, right? And I said, I have to learn this magic thing. So I asked my mom, hey, will you take me to the library? And she did, and we checked out about a stack that big of books on how to do magic tricks. And step by step, by staying hanging tough, I learned the right stuff. You New Kids fans know what I'm talking about, don't you? All right. So I want to show you one of those first tricks that I ever learned. And in fact, this is an advanced version of the trick. And it took me about a year to master all these moves. All right, so here it is. There's two ends to the rope. The middle comes up here because all the action going to happen right there at the top. And we take the scissors. Don't try that at home, people. Here we go. Cut the rope in the middle, leaving us, of course, with four ends, two pieces of rope. And is everybody watching closely? Okay, not close enough, so we're going to do it again. Here we go. All right. All right, here we go. But you know, I want to do it again and show you so you can watch closer. But I didn't advance the trick for many years until I saw a magician on TV do some more advanced tricks with the rope. So here's that. Right here, what's your name?
Debbie.
Debbie, tell me when to stop. Here we go.
Stop.
Right there, watch. No scissors. We cut it right where Debbie says stop. With the hand. With the hand, people. Wow. All right. Wow. All right. Thanks for showing up, Mom. Appreciate that over there, always clapping. All right. Little magic breath, ready? Takes the ends off the rope. That's right. Now we're working with just a solid loop. No ends whatsoever. Solid circle. Yeah, all right. And if you take the loop and twist, you can actually split it into two circles that are hooked together. Check that out. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Now, you need the ends to get them back on the rope. So a little magic breath, just like this. And we're back to where we started with two ends, one long piece of rope. Thank you very much. That's the rope trick. Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, I didn't know you were going to go so crazy for the rope trick. So here we go. Rope trick encore. Here it is. Oh, yeah. Back to where we started, ladies and gentlemen. That is the rope trick. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. All of those moves to the next level. And speaking talent, out of the blue, America's Got Talent. Will you come to Hollywood and audition for season 9? So I was like, yeah. 5,000 people. The most people I'd ever been in front of, right? And before I knew it, they're like, Devin, you're on. So I walked out there and I performed my most difficult trick. And this trick has a lot of unpredictable elements, but it has a really high payoff if you nail it. And I nailed it. Nailed it, okay? I mean, it was incredible. The audience just erupted in applause. And it was hands down, to this day, the highest moment of my entire career. So then it gets turned over to the judges. And Mel B said, so Devin, what do you want from America's Got Talent? And I so badly wanted to say, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. But I didn't want to spice things up too much, you know? So I just stayed quiet, but she kept talking. She said, you know, I was expecting something more spectacular. And I was like, okay. But then Heidi said, I loved it. It was amazing. And I thought, thank you, Heidi. Thank you. And then the Howard Stern said to me, great trick. I wish I could do that. Then he added, the only thing I'm not completely sure about is if that exact trick plays to this big of an audience. I was like, okay, all right. And then Howie Mandel said, man, I have to tell you something. I have friends who do a similar routine to the one you just did, but you know what? They do it better. Oh. Ouch. And my entire career, didn't put it on YouTube, or years into something only to be massively disappointed? Or have you ever just wanted to quit? Well, I didn't quit magic. And the reason is because I learned through that experience that failure is not a dead end. Failure is a fork in the road. And if you choose the healthy path over the self-destructive one, then you can learn from failure and allow it to be a bridge to the next level of greatness. Now, I could never have guessed at that time that everything that happened was actually part of a greater plan. That all of my challenges and some of my greatest successes in life would eventually become a signature message that would inspire hope to thousands of people at this point all across the world. And that's the cool thing about it, is I realized, wow, there was some good in that, and that was incredible. And one of those successes in my life that I gave you a glimpse of earlier is soccer juggling. So I'm just curious, who here has ever heard of the term soccer juggling by round of applause? All right, a little thin. How many people have heard of soccer? Anyone? Just. All right, cool. Well, this is soccer. Soccer juggling is where you're keeping the ball going, right? You're trying to not let it hit the ground. You get bounces. You can use nearly any part of your body to keep the ball going. And I had many, many goals as a child. I set seemingly impossible goals, and then I achieved them. And my first goal was just to be able to get 10 bounces without dropping the ball. And then it turned into 100, and then I wanted to get 1,000. And a few years ago, I hit my all-time high. Would you like to know my record today? Yes. It was 11,241 kicks in a row. Now, just to be clear, that is 11,241 consecutive kicks without ever dropping the ball over a 2-hour period. So, how did I do it? I did it by asking that question. What else is possible? After I broke every record. But I also did it by doing something else. I worked a 3-point daily method every single day. And for time, I'm just going to share one of those with you right now. And it's this. Pick up the ball. Okay. Picking up the ball means maintaining a positive attitude and coming back stronger after challenges. Because failures and setbacks are a given. You're going to drop the ball. But just keep picking it up. No matter how hard it gets, keep picking up that ball. When you feel like you're done and you just want to give in, pick up the ball. And picking up the ball is a concept that applies to any area of life, including with relationships. And so I have not told you yet about my most important relationships, my family. Can I tell you about my family? Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you. So my wife and I are coming up on 15 years of marriage. So, all right, and we have 7 kids. And some gasps there. Okay, I know, that's what we do. They're all girls. There's the reaction. That's right. This is true. 7 daughters. I know people are like, well, what are the chances, right? No boys. Have you thought about adoption? And we're like, well, I mean, we thought about it. And then we were like, nah, let's just keep them. So. But here's why I bring my family into this, okay? I'm going to close with this story. A few years ago, I was in Las Vegas to deliver a keynote presentation. And I just happened to pass the hotel where Matt Franco performs. And if that name rings a bell, Matt Franco is a magician, and he won season 9 of America's Got Talent. That's the season I auditioned, right? And when I saw his name up there, I thought that could have been me. And all that pain hit me again. But then out of nowhere, for the first time ever, a sense of thankfulness and gratitude hit me because I realized the perfection of what had happened, and this is it. Had things not happened exactly the way that they did, we wouldn't have our last 3 kids. Now, let me explain what I mean by that, okay? Back when I auditioned for America's Got Talent, we only had 4 kids, which means we didn't have the last 3 yet, right? You know as well as I do, if you were to be able to go back in time and change something, it would change everything moving forward. Your decisions, where you are, your timing. I think you get my point, right? And had things not gone exactly the way they had, we wouldn't have our last 3 angels, Eva and Emmy and Haven, who, by the way, mean more to me than winning any competition ever could. Now, when I first came out here, I told you I'm here for one reason, to help you realize that something greater is always possible for you, even if you can't see it right now, and no matter what is happening around you. Start asking the question, what else is possible? Stop fearing failure and commit to picking up the ball. But most importantly, practice thankfulness. Because thankfulness will not only help you discover new possibilities, but it will help you see the greatness that already exists in your life if you'll simply open your eyes to it. Thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks.